Police remain on the scene of a mass shooting at a homeless encampment in Minneapolis.
In Los Angeles, the mayor warning about a possible serial killer on the loose, preying on homeless victims.
In 2026, millions of Americans with steady jobs, families, and responsibilities are now living just one missed paycheck, one medical emergency, or one rent increase away from sleeping in RVs and parking lots. And tonight, we reveal how this silent housing collapse became the new normal. One of the fastest growing groups within America's homeless population in 2026 is the working homeless. These are people with full-time jobs, steady schedules, and regular paychecks who still cannot afford housing. According to recent reports, more than 35% of people experiencing homelessness are now employed, a number that has nearly doubled since 2019. Many work in healthcare, logistics, retail, education, food service, and transportation. In major metro areas, warehouse workers earning $19 per hour bring home about $2,600 monthly after taxes. Meanwhile, average rent for a one-bedroom apartment often exceeds $2,100. After utilities, phone bills, insurance, and transportation costs, nothing remains for savings. When even one expense increases, housing becomes impossible to maintain. Many workers sleep in vans near job sites, rotate between parking lots, or live in old RVs parked on side streets. Some hide their situation from employers out of fear of losing work. Others shower at gyms or truck stops to appear presentable and maintain employment. This group rarely appears in traditional homelessness statistics because they avoid shelters and tent camps. They blend into society during daylight hours and disappear into vehicles at night. Their homelessness remains invisible to most Americans, but the numbers are massive and growing. America is no longer facing only jobless poverty. The nation now confronts a crisis where full-time employment no longer guarantees shelter. Work that once provided stability now leaves people sleeping in parking lots, struggling to survive despite doing everything society asks of them. The housing crisis in 2026 is driven by a simple, brutal equation. Income has stagnated while rent has exploded. Nationally, median wages have increased about 18% since 2020, while average rents have risen more than 42% during the same period. In many cities across America, rent has literally doubled. A typical worker earning $20 per hour makes roughly $3,200 per month before taxes and about $2,500 after deductions. In cities like Phoenix, Denver, Miami, and San Diego, average one-bedroom rents now range from $2,000 to $2,600 monthly. That leaves little or nothing remaining for food, healthcare, car payments, or any form of savings. Housing experts traditionally recommend spending no more than 30% of income on rent. In 2026, most renters spend between 45% to 60% of their earnings on housing alone. This means one financial shock, such as illness, reduced work hours, unexpected childcare costs, or a car repair, immediately leads to missed rent payments. Landlords increasingly require first month's rent, last month's rent, and security deposits up front, often totaling $6,000 or more. For low-income renters, this makes moving impossible, even when cheaper housing technically exists elsewhere. The system no longer allows economic recovery. Once someone falls behind on payments, late fees, court costs, and eviction records lock them out of traditional housing permanently. RVs become the only remaining affordable shelter option, transforming what was once recreational vehicles into survival housing for America's working class. Emergency savings used to protect American families from short-term financial crises. In 2026, that safety net has almost completely disappeared. Federal surveys show that over 57% of Americans cannot cover a $500 emergency expense without borrowing money. Nearly 40% report having no savings whatsoever. Healthcare represents a major factor in this crisis. Even insured workers face deductibles ranging from $3,000 to $7,000 annually. A single hospital visit can wipe out years of careful savings. Prescription costs, dental work, and mental health care are often paid entirely out of pocket, draining accounts rapidly. Transportation creates another massive drain on resources. Car payments average $730 per month nationwide, and insurance costs continue rising steadily. One transmission failure or accident can cost $4,000 or more to repair. Without savings, people turn to high-interest credit cards and exploitative payday loans. Childcare costs now average over $1,200 per month in many states. Parents must choose between paying rent or providing care for their children, an impossible decision. Inflation has also destroyed purchasing power across the board. Food prices are up more than 30% since 2021. Utilities, phone plans, and internet access continue rising without relief. With no financial cushion remaining, Americans live paycheck to paycheck regardless of income level. When income stops for even 2 weeks due to illness or job loss, homelessness begins immediately. RV living becomes the emergency shelter that savings accounts once provided, a last resort for families who have exhausted every other option. Employment in 2026 is more unstable than at any time in recent decades. Traditional full-time jobs with benefits are being systematically replaced by temporary contracts, gig platforms, and unpredictable on-demand scheduling. Over 34% of American workers now rely on non-traditional employment, including freelancing, delivery apps, warehouse staffing agencies, and short-term contracts that offer no security. These jobs provide no guaranteed hours or income. A delivery driver may work 50 hours one week and only 15 the next. Warehouse temps can be dismissed without notice or explanation. Retail workers face sudden schedule cuts that devastate monthly budgets. Benefits are extremely rare in this economy. Most gig workers lack paid sick leave, unemployment protection, and health insurance coverage. When illness strikes or injury occurs, income disappears, instantly with no safety net. Corporate layoffs have also increased dramatically. Technology, logistics, media, and manufacturing sectors have eliminated hundreds of thousands of jobs since 2024. Many displaced workers receive minimal severance packages and lose housing within months of termination. Because income is unpredictable and inconsistent, landlords classify these workers as high-risk applicants. Many are automatically rejected from apartment rentals due to irregular pay history, even when their average income would cover rent. When work stops or decreases unexpectedly, there is no financial buffer. Rent falls behind immediately, triggering late fees and eviction proceedings. RVs become mobile shelters that allow workers to continue searching for employment without becoming fully street homeless. America's workforce has become infinitely flexible for corporations seeking to maximize profits while becoming tragically fragile for workers seeking basic stability. Eviction has become the main pipeline feeding people directly into homelessness. In 2026, housing courts across the country process over 3.5 million eviction filings annually, with millions more threatened informally through pay or quit notices that never reach formal court proceedings. Most evictions happen with shocking speed. In many states, tenants can be legally removed within 21 to 30 days of missing a single rent payment. Legal representation is extremely rare for defendants. Less than 10% of low-income renters have attorneys during eviction proceedings, while most landlords arrive with legal counsel. Once filed in court records, eviction cases follow renters for years into the future. Even people who eventually catch up on payments and resolve their cases remain permanently blacklisted by property management companies. This forces them into informal housing arrangements, severe overcrowding with family or vehicle living. Evictions are increasingly automated and impersonal. Corporate landlords use software systems to file eviction cases automatically after just 5 days of non-payment. There is no human review of circumstances, no negotiation possible, and no flexibility for temporary hardship. Storage fees, moving costs, and towing charges destroy what little wealth people have remaining. Many lose furniture, important documents, family photographs, and irreplaceable personal belongings. After eviction, emergency shelters are typically full with waiting lists. Some families wait months for placement. RVs become immediate shelter that requires no approval process, no paperwork, and no background checks. Eviction no longer represents a temporary setback in 2026. For most people, it marks permanent displacement into vehicle living and informal housing. In 2026, a growing share of America's rental housing is controlled by large investment firms, private equity groups, and real estate investment trusts. In many metro areas, more than 35% of apartment units are now owned by corporations managing thousands of properties nationwide. These companies prioritize profit maximization over long-term tenant stability or community relationships. Many major landlords use automated pricing software that continuously analyzes local demand, vacancy rates, and competitor rents in real time. When one company raises prices, Others automatically follow. This creates artificial inflation even when housing supply is technically sufficient. Research studies show that algorithm-driven pricing has increased rents by 8% to 15% annually in some markets, far beyond normal market trends or inflation. Small independent landlords who once offered flexible payment plans are being systematically bought out. As a result, renters lose access to human negotiation and understanding. Missed rent is treated as a data point in software, not a personal crisis requiring compassion. Corporate owners also reduce maintenance and staffing to cut operational costs. Tenants face delayed repairs, unsafe living conditions, and utility failures. Complaints often lead to lease non-renewals instead of solutions. Lease renewals now commonly include increases of 20% to 35% annually. Tenants who cannot accept these increases are forced to move, even if they have paid rent on time for years. With limited affordable alternatives available, many turn to RV living as the only remaining option. The corporate takeover of American housing has fundamentally changed the landlord-tenant relationship from personal to purely transactional. By 2026, family homelessness has reached alarming levels across America. Education departments estimate that more than 1.6 million children experience housing instability each year, including those living in cars, RVs, motels, and temporary shelters. These children often remain invisible in statistics because parents avoid traditional shelters to keep families together. Living in vehicles creates constant disruption and trauma. Families move, frequently to avoid police attention and enforcement. Children change schools multiple times per year, losing academic progress and important social connections. Studies show that highly mobile students score 20% to 30% lower on standardized tests compared to housed peers. Many parents park near schools or workplaces overnight to minimize travel. Mornings are spent finding bathrooms, changing clothes, and hiding visible signs of homelessness. Kids often carry backpacks containing all their belongings, prepared to move at any moment. Nutrition suffers dramatically. Without refrigerators or kitchens, families rely heavily on fast food and convenience stores. Childhood obesity and malnutrition rise simultaneously, creating long-term health consequences. Fear of child welfare agencies prevents many parents from seeking available help. They worry that admitting homelessness could lead to family separation and foster care placement. As a result, they remain isolated without support. Services. Long-term research shows that children who experience homelessness are significantly more likely to struggle with mental health issues, employment instability, and housing problems as adults. RV living may provide temporary shelter from the streets, but it rarely offers the long-term stability children need for healthy development and future success. America's retirement system is failing a growing number of older adults who worked their entire lives. In 2026, the average Social Security benefit is about $1,750 per month, while average rent for seniors now exceeds $1,900 monthly in many regions. This gap makes independent housing impossible on fixed incomes. More than 23% of Americans over 65 now spend over half their income on housing costs alone. Many have exhausted lifetime savings on medical bills, caregiving expenses, or financially supporting struggling adult children. Rising property taxes and insurance increases have forced some seniors out of homes they own outright. Others lose housing after a spouse dies, and household income drops by 30% to 50% overnight. Senior housing waitlists are years long in most areas. Subsidized apartments are severely limited with minimal new construction. Private assisted living costs often exceed $4,500 per month, far beyond reach for average retirees. Many older adults buy aging RVs for $5,000 to $15,000 as their last available housing option. These vehicles often lack proper insulation, safe electrical wiring, and reliable plumbing systems. Health risks multiply dramatically. Seniors living in vehicles experience higher rates of heat stroke, hypothermia, medication loss, and untreated chronic illnesses. Limited mobility makes frequent relocation extremely difficult and dangerous. After decades of work and contributions to society, many retirees now live without permanent addresses or stability. Their displacement reflects a broader collapse of retirement security in modern America, where working your entire life no longer guarantees dignified housing in old age. In the past, vehicle dwellers could move between cities, suburbs, and rural land to find temporary refuge. In 2026, all three environments are systematically closing off access, creating a geographic crisis. Major cities enforce strict parking bans, time limits, and vehicle size restrictions specifically targeting RVs. Many deploy automated license plate scanners to identify repeat parkers. Fines can reach $500 per violation, with vehicles towed after multiple tickets. Suburbs pass anti-overnight ordinances after homeowner complaints about appearance and property values. Police conduct regular sweeps of parking areas. Churches and nonprofit organizations face intense zoning pressure for hosting RVs on their properties. Rural areas offer space but lack essential services. There are few employment opportunities, medical facilities, or grocery stores within reasonable distance. Internet access is limited or non-existent, making remote work impossible. Public lands increasingly prohibit long-term camping. National forests and desert areas strictly enforce 14-day stay limits using GPS monitoring and ranger patrols. As options disappear rapidly, people cycle endlessly between locations without rest. Constant movement increases fuel costs, accelerates vehicle breakdowns, and causes physical and mental exhaustion. This geographic exclusion creates nowhere zones throughout America, areas where people are legally allowed to exist but practically unable to survive. RV homelessness becomes a form of forced migration within one's own country. People are pushed from place to place, unwanted everywhere, unable to establish any stable foothold. The entire nation becomes hostile territory for those without traditional housing. Across the United States, informal RV communities are forming in industrial zones, vacant lots, and large parking areas near employment centers. Some host dozens of vehicles, others grow into settlements of hundreds, creating entire neighborhoods without infrastructure. These communities often create their own survival systems. Residents organize trash collection, security watches, water sharing, and conflict resolution procedures. In some cities, mutual aid networks provide donated food and basic medical supplies. However, conditions remain unstable and dangerous. Most sites lack sewage access, leading to serious public health risks. Fires caused by generators and portable heaters are common occurrences. Emergency response times are slow, with ambulances and fire trucks sometimes unable to navigate makeshift roads. Local governments alternate between tolerance and removal. When camps are forcibly dismantled, residents lose possessions, vehicles, and crucial social networks. Sweeps scatter communities that provided mutual support. Despite obvious dangers, many residents prefer encampments to traditional shelters, which may separate families, impose strict curfews, or prohibit pets that provide emotional support. Researchers estimate that RV encampments now house hundreds of thousands of Americans nationwide. They represent a new form of informal housing created by necessity, not choice or lifestyle preference. These communities reflect both human resilience and systemic failure. People are adapting creatively to survive in a system that no longer provides stable shelter. They build community and mutual support while living in conditions that should not exist in the wealthiest nation on earth. Living without stable housing places enormous psychological strain on individuals and families. In 2026, public health agencies estimate that more than 60% of people experiencing vehicle homelessness show signs of chronic anxiety, depression, or trauma-related disorders. Constant uncertainty, lack of privacy, and fear of police interaction create permanent stress that damages mental health. Sleep deprivation is extremely common. Many people sleep lightly to monitor surroundings for threats. Noise, extreme cold, and heat interrupt rest nightly. Medical studies link chronic sleep loss to weakened immunity, heart disease, and severely impaired judgment. Access to mental health care is extremely limited. Wait times for public clinics often exceed 6 months. Private therapy averages $150 per session, far beyond financial reach for vehicle dwellers. Substance use frequently becomes a coping mechanism for unbearable stress. Overdose deaths among homeless populations have increased more than 40% since 2021. Untreated trauma and social isolation contribute to addiction cycles that become harder to break. Shame also plays a major destructive role. Many hide their living situation from friends, family, and coworkers. This secrecy increases loneliness and prevents early intervention or support. Children in vehicle living families experience higher rates of anxiety, developmental delays, and behavioral disorders. Without stable environments, emotional regulation becomes extremely difficult for young people. Mental health decline is both a cause and consequence of homelessness. Without accessible care and stable housing, recovery becomes harder with each passing year. The trauma of vehicle living creates psychological wounds that persist long after housing is eventually secured. By 2026, school districts report that more than 1.7 million students lack stable housing. These children live in RVs, cars, motels, or temporary shelters, often changing locations multiple times per year without warning. Frequent moves severely disrupt learning. Many students miss weeks of instruction during relocations between cities or districts. Homework is difficult or impossible without internet access, desks, or quiet space. Graduation rates for homeless youth are nearly 25% lower than average, limiting future opportunities. Health issues are widespread among homeless children. Lack of refrigeration leads to poor nutrition and diet. Inconsistent medical care results in untreated asthma, dental decay, and vision problems that affect learning. Social stigma isolates children emotionally. Many avoid inviting friends over or discussing home life. Bullying and embarrassment contribute to withdrawal and depression that can last years. Transportation creates another major barrier to education. Parents may park far from schools due to enforcement, causing chronic tardiness and absences. School bus routes rarely accommodate mobile families who change locations frequently. Federal programs exist to assist homeless students, but funding is severely insufficient. Many large school districts have only one homeless liaison for thousands of affected students. Long-term studies show that childhood housing instability dramatically increases risks of adult poverty, incarceration, and chronic illness. RV living during formative years leaves lifelong psychological and developmental scars. These children did nothing wrong. They are victims of an economic system that has failed their families, facing consequences that will follow them throughout their lives. Climate-related disasters are now a major driver of homelessness across America. Between 2020 and 2026, floods, wildfires, hurricanes, and extreme heat waves displaced more than 5 million Americans, either temporarily or permanently from their homes. Insurance costs have soared dramatically. In high-risk regions, premiums have doubled or tripled within just a few years. Some insurance companies have withdrawn coverage entirely from vulnerable areas. Homeowners unable to renew policies lose mortgage approvals and housing. Rebuilding costs often far exceed insurance payouts. Many families sell damaged homes at significant losses and move into RVs while waiting for government assistance that never arrives or proves insufficient. Wildfires in the West and hurricanes in the South regularly destroy affordable housing stock. Low-income neighborhoods are hit hardest, with minimal resources for recovery. Extreme heat waves and prolonged droughts force agricultural workers and rural residents into vehicles near seasonal employment. Flood-prone areas become permanently uninhabitable. Federal disaster aid is slow and uneven in distribution. Average FEMA housing assistance covers only a small fraction of long-term rebuilding needs. Climate displacement is turning what begins as temporary RV living into permanent survival arrangements. Environmental instability is now inseparable from America's housing crisis. As climate change accelerates, displacement will only increase. Coastal communities face rising seas. Inland regions face drought and fire. Millions more Americans may lose stable housing in coming years due to forces beyond their control. Homelessness has become a multi-billion-dollar industry in America. In 2026, federal, state, and local governments spend more than $35 billion annually on homelessness-related programs, contracts, and enforcement. Large nonprofit organizations receive massive government contracts to operate shelters, outreach teams, and transitional housing programs. Some executives earn six-figure salaries, while frontline services remain severely understaffed and underfunded. Private companies profit extensively from towing, storage, security, cleanup, and surveillance of homeless encampments. Each sweep generates thousands of dollars in municipal contracts and fees. Temporary housing providers charge governments premium rates for converted hotels and hastily built modular units. Long-term permanent housing solutions receive far less funding and political support. Consulting firms sell expensive homelessness management systems and data platforms to cities. These track people meticulously, but rarely secure actual housing or solve root problems. This fragmented system rewards short-term containment rather than permanent stability. Funding cycles prioritize visibility and appearance over genuine effectiveness. While many individual workers are dedicated and compassionate, the overall structure encourages spending without resolution. For some institutions and companies, homelessness has become a permanent revenue stream that would disappear if the crisis were actually solved. The perverse incentives are clear. Solving homelessness would eliminate billions in contracts and consulting fees. The current system is designed to manage the crisis indefinitely, not end it, creating a permanent underclass that feeds an entire industry built on human suffering. Contrary to popular belief, RV homelessness is no longer limited to the poorest Americans. In 2026, surveys show that over 52% of households live paycheck to paycheck, including many families earning over $75,000 annually. Rising healthcare, childcare, and housing costs consume most income before discretionary spending. Mortgage resets and rent renewals push families over the financial edge. Nearly 45% of Americans carry more than $10,000 in consumer debt. High interest rates make repayment impossible, trapping families in permanent debt cycles. Job loss remains the top trigger of housing loss. Average unemployment benefits replace less than 40% of previous income, making rent payments impossible. Divorce, serious illness, and sudden caregiving responsibilities rapidly deplete savings. Without family support networks, financial recovery is unlikely. Many current RV residents previously owned homes, held college degrees, and maintained professional careers. Their economic decline happened quietly and quickly, often invisible to former colleagues. The American middle class now survives on increasingly fragile systems. One emergency, one layoff, one medical crisis is enough to erase decades of work and stability. The safety net has disappeared. What separates housed families from homelessness is often just 2 or 3 missed paychecks. The crisis is not distant or affecting only other people. It is immediate and could impact anyone. Millions of Americans are one bad month away from living in their cars. The middle class is not secure. It is terrified. If current trends continue without major intervention, analysts project that by 2030 more than 1.5 million Americans could be living in vehicles permanently. Entire regions may develop permanent informal housing zones that governments reluctantly tolerate. Public health systems will face increased disease outbreaks, addiction crises, and untreated mental illness. Emergency rooms will absorb preventable medical crises, driving healthcare costs higher for everyone. School systems will struggle with massive transient student populations. Workforce productivity will decline as employment instability spreads throughout the economy. Cities will spend more taxpayer money on enforcement and cleanup than on housing construction. Costs will rise while solutions remain elusive. Political polarization may intensify as communities argue, bitterly over responsibility and resource allocation. Social trust will continue eroding. Generational homelessness could become normalized. Children raised without stable housing may repeat the cycle, creating a permanent underclass. Without major reform in housing policy, wage structures, healthcare access, and social support systems, RV living will shift from emergency measure to permanent feature of American life. The choice is clear. America can invest in solutions now or manage a homelessness crisis indefinitely. The current path leads to permanent housing instability for millions, a reality that will fundamentally change American society. Future generations will ask why this was allowed to happen in the wealthiest nation in human history. The answer will reflect our values and priorities as a society. This crisis isn't ending, it's accelerating, and every month more working Americans are being pushed closer to the edge. In our next video, we're exposing the cities and states where this breakdown is happening fastest and why so many people have nowhere left to go. If you've seen this happening in your community, share your story in the comments. Your voice matters here. And if you want real reporting on America's housing collapse, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next.